Good evening from Los Angeles. I'm Tavis Smiley. Despite what many politicians in Washington say about supporting U.S. troops fighting in the Middle East, the reality of what these men and women face upon returning home often does not match the Washington rhetoric. First up tonight, a conversation with Iraq war veteran Paul Rieckhoff on his efforts to get Congress to put their money where their mouths are when it comes to U.S. military personnel. Paul Rieckhoff is the founder and executive director of Iraq and Afghanistan Veterans of America, who served as an Army platoon leader in Iraq in 2003 and 2004. He is also the author of the acclaimed memoir about his time in Iraq called Chasing Ghosts. Paul Rieckhoff, nice to have you on the program.
Thank you, sir.
How you been?
With you. Very good, thank you.
Good to see you. This organization, IAVA, started out, as I recall, in 2004 under the name Operation Truth. I raise that, Paul, only because I'm curious as to what you think the truth is about veterans that's not being told to the American people, starting with the fact that this administration won't even let the bodies coming back to Dover Air Force Base be seen by Americans on television.
Yeah, I think, well, we started out very grassroots. We started out in my studio apartment in the East Village in New York City with a very basic website that was Operation Truth, and that's grown into what is now IAVA, the first and largest nonprofit for Iraq veterans. And we were all focused on connecting the American people with the war, with the people behind the war, and with the veterans' issues that we all face coming home. So I think the truth is that America is not ready to receive a generation of veterans. We've got about 1.7 million people who've served in Iraq and Afghanistan since 9/11, and they're coming home and they're proud of their service. They love their country, but they've got some issues that need care and need resources. They need educational benefits, they need employment opportunities, they need mental health care, and they need a country to turn the corner on Vietnam and get back to where we were after World War II. We really honored their service and invested in them after they were out of the military and came home to our society.
To your point of Vietnam and World War II, this is obviously and regrettably not the first time we've been in a situation where we had a massive number of U.S. troops coming home. So what did we not get about previous experiences that should have prepared us for this influx of returning veterans back to the country?
I think at some point folks started to think that wars were clean and easy. I think a lot of folks in Washington thought the war in Iraq would be over quickly and wouldn't require much in the way of resources. But over time, as we're years into this war, we're realizing that folks come home from war different. Not everyone comes home with an amputation. Not everyone comes home with a traumatic brain injury. But everybody comes home unchanged. And we as a country need to understand the war doesn't end when they come home. We need to provide all the resources and all the commitments that we can to honor their service. And it doesn't matter where you stand on the war. It doesn't matter if you're for it or against it. We've all got to unite as Americans to take care of the people who've served.
Earlier this week, we had Senator Jim Webb, who was pushing through aggressively, trying to push through his GI Bill. I'll get your take on that in just a second. But tell me first what it is that we are not getting about the needs of veterans when they come home. What are these needs? What are they up against?
Well, I think it starts with a detachment that exists. You've got less than 1% of the American population that served in Iraq and Afghanistan. World War II is about 12%. So we're not getting the fact that these are our sons and daughters. These are the folks from our communities, from our churches, from our jobs. It feels like it's somebody else's kids who are fighting these wars. When they come home, mental health issues are a top priority for them. About 1 in 5 returning veterans are going to face post-traumatic stress disorder, PTSD, or other mental health care problems. They're facing an unemployment rate that's 3 times the national average, divorce rates are climbing, and their families are really shouldering a tremendous amount of this burden. So we're really not a country at war. We're a military at war, and our military families are at war, and a lot of other folks are shopping and watching American Idol. So our group and others are trying to galvanize the American public behind an issue that should be a no-brainer. Taking care of veterans should be something we all understand and we can all get behind.
What specifically are we looking for you, your organization, we as Americans ought to be looking for our government to do around mental health and other issues?
Well, we need better screening. We need better mental health care screening both in the field and when they come home. We need better mental health care resources. There's a serious shortage of qualified mental health care workers at the VA. We need the president and others to stand up and say, hey, everybody who can take care of veterans, we need you to chip in and get involved. We need that national call that we haven't had. And we need major reform at the VA. Right now, the average claim takes 183 days to get processed. There are hundreds of thousands of claims that are backlogged. And the bottom line is the VA wasn't properly resourced to handle a new generation, a new flood of veterans coming home. So we need major reform, and we need leadership in Washington. We need the president and the new president, whoever that is, to stand up and say veterans issues are going to be a priority. I'm going to make it a top issue on my watch.
The current president, George W. Bush, of course, is opposed to, has said he will not sign, he will veto the GI Bill that Senator Webb on this program again earlier this week is trying to push through, past the Senate. We'll see what happens in the coming days. But Bush has said he will not sign it. John McCain, the presumptive Republican nominee, veteran though he may be, has said he is opposed to it for his own reasons. What's your sense of the politics around this GI Bill?
It shouldn't be this hard, to be honest with you, Tavis. When we started this 16 months ago with Senator Webb, Senator Hagel, and others, we didn't think that the GI Bill was going to be a controversial issue, but it's become one. But I think what we can say now is after 16 months, there's tremendous momentum, and this is kind of like a legislative juggernaut. This is moving forward. The President, Senator McCain, they're in the minority. It went through the House with a 90-vote majority, went through the Senate with 77 votes. You can't get 77 senators to agree on anything. And we've got every major veterans group in the country behind it. So it's going to end up on the President's desk likely before July 4th, and he's going to have a historic decision to make. Does he want to stand with veterans, or is he going to stand against us? The GI Bill makes sense. It's something that is a moral obligation on the part of America, and it makes financial sense. The GI Bill after World War II, for every dollar invested in the GI Bill, returned $7 to the national economy, helped build our middle class, and created a generation of leaders. So in a wartime environment, we need a wartime educational benefit, and that's what the GI Bill does. So I don't think the President is going to be able to stand in the way of this one.